My name is Nils Kanevad. I've been working within integration and APIs for the past 15 years or so, mostly as a consultant for a lot of big Swedish companies. I am now employed by one of those big Swedish companies in Sandvik, who you might know. We do a lot in machining, we do a lot in when it comes to mining. So if you want to build a subway, you can call me or my colleagues. Yeah. But we also try to stay on top, at least, of new technologies. We try to see what's out there and how we can adapt that and make use of it, even though it's a very old school industry. It's a big company, but I think we're on track. And you are probably going to see a lot of numbers these days. And Bill shared some numbers. In a study I read, I saw that there's 2,000 publicly exposed MCP servers that has no authentication. And then you might think, oh yeah, sure, it might be to my grandma's recipe book, right? It doesn't hurt anyone. But there are actually some that contain quite serious enterprise data. And don't worry, the slides you get afterwards will include my sources and some interesting links for you to learn more. So you don't have to just trust me on these numbers. But that's quite scary, right? It's a new protocol, and we still have 2,000, maybe more now, that has no authentication at all. And one of the reasons that that's the case is that MCP, at least from the start, had authentication as optional. I mean, you didn't have to put any authentication. The protocol it's maturing a bit. Now we are getting to a state where you actually at least are advised to authenticate properly, and there are methods to do it. So then one of the attack surfaces that we can see with MCP servers is the rogue agents, or a remote code execution threat. And this is nothing new. We've seen this for 20, 30, even 40 years. But it's resurfacing now because we are putting out servers there that are maybe not as mature on the authentication and the security level. And what that means is that a large portion, this is also something that Bill mentioned, I think he said 43% is susceptible to this kind of attack. We saw that Figma, I applaud them for being very early in trying this out and getting an MCP server out there that their clients could use. But there was quite a serious vulnerability when it comes to being able to execute code remotely on their servers. And you can read more about that in your spare time. And there's a big risk that you allow unrestricted fetches through your MCP server. So that is one part that we need to stay aware of. That's also obviously what I call here the T1000 attack, something morphing into something else. And this is targeting your supply chain. And there's another, Postmark is a popular service for sending emails. They released an MPC that, in theory, MCP, it should say. In NPM, they released a package that then someone managed to get access to their code repository and could push a new version. So then when a developer updates their packages, they get code that's not signed by the Postmark team. So with one line of code, they were able to send a BCC to themselves of all the emails that this MCP server sent out. That's a scary thought for an enterprise if you use that. And that is what's called a rug pull attack. You just pull the rug underneath and act as something else. Another number, another survey asked developers, now you want to use MCP, do you think, is there any security issues? Just a raise of hands. Who many here are concerned about security when it comes to MCP servers or? Yeah, okay, good. More than 45%. So in this initial one, and you can read when you get the links afterwards, most people thought that, yeah, sure, there are security risks, but it's acceptable. We can live with it. And I think we are a bit complacent when it comes to security, and security is often an afterthought. We don't really pay attention to it from the start when we adopt new technologies. And that's what I believe, and what we are seeing now is that we need to do. So now, let's get into the defenses. How do we actually protect ourselves from this? Or not even, how do we build so that we don't even have to worry about it? So defense number one, the identity checkpoint. We need to have a clear way of how we check the identity of anyone using our MCP service. And what's good here is that PKCE or PKCE is required. But something to keep in mind here is that compared to your normal open API based API that uses OAuth 2.0, MCP servers by design uses a draft of the 2.1 protocol. I'm not going to get too technical into this, but it can be good to know at least that then, you need to pay attention to what's happening in that draft because things might change before that is released. I think it's good that they are staying on the latest, even though it's not fully released yet. But it's something to keep in mind. And I believe that we need to have a zero trust principle here. By default, you should have no access. And when you give access, it should be very granular. And this is pretty basic, right? It's the same as we do with all our APIs these days, the REST APIs as well. It should be served over HTTPS, especially authorization endpoints. And a big part should not share sessions from others. I mean, when you federate sessions, federate tokens, it becomes trickier with MCP servers. Or you at least need to be a bit more careful when you do it. And the delegated authority then, so a bit more deep dive into how we solve this. What we found is that, it's best to use a trusted IDP that you already have. And nowadays, the latest version of the MCP has support for hooking into your IDP. So you can use your enter ID, you can use your auth0, use that to control this. And don't try to hand roll your authentication towards the MCP server directly. Good. And touching upon what I mentioned briefly before, don't do token pass-through. Have one token that's designed or designated for this use case. It will make your life a lot easier. Defense 2, maybe the most important one, and what I think that all enterprises getting into this should start with, is to have a trusted registry. That can be one you build yourself. It can be something from the market. There are some that exist already. I know if you talk to Axway out here, they have one. Microsoft is focusing on one. But you need to have, I say need now because I actually believe that, you need to have a trusted registry within your enterprise. And that's to avoid any rug pull attacks like can happen if you just publish something to NPM, which is the official package manager for JavaScript or Node packages. And that's what happened in the example I gave before with Postmark, where someone got access, changed the code, no one really noticed. It's just a slight version update, right? A lot of developers will just update to the latest version, update to the latest version. And I mean, how many actually review every single line of code that's changed between versions? You don't really, right? You trust the developer that you get the package from. But in this case, it makes total sense to have your own private registry. Either one like these, or there is an official now registry from the team at the Model Context Protocol, or the open source community. So there is an official one that you can use, or you can build upon that for your own use cases. So I think that's something really worth digging into. And what you should really focus on when you do this is to try to have a registry that can pin versions of your service. So keep the governance tight and make sure that, yeah, we use 1.0 and we know exactly what that server will do. And you pin it, and then also you should have cryptographic signatures to verify the integrity of that server. Now I'm going into a bit deeper technical lingo again, but it's very important, and a lot of tools popping up now, they have built-in hash verification of signatures. So you actually know then what the server says that I'm going to get is what I'm getting. Very important. The last and final defense, I call it programming the laws. So there are SDKs that you can use right now from MCP themselves to build your servers in C#, in Java, in TypeScript. What I suggest, and what is popping up more and more now, is to have your own wrapper of that SDK. So you have a governance enterprise-y MCP SDK, and that can handle things such as the logging, it can handle the authentication, and the RBAC for you. So to answer these questions then, who should get access? What are they allowed to do? What are the secrets they need to know? And then what happened? So if you can build a SDK that can handle these concerns for you, you have come a long way. Or use one that is on the market today. There are some really good open source projects popping up. You will see the links in the end of this slide once you get that shared as well. But I haven't vetted them enough to give a clear recommendation to you guys, but I will leave it for you to evaluate yourselves. And also, I'm sure you are aware of this, most of you, but there are some legal demands on us as well, which applies here, such as GDPR, such as, we have people in China, LGPD in Brazil. There are some global laws around how we are allowed to handle our data. So especially if you are a global enterprise, like we are at Sandvik, we need to consider all of these as well. Yes, it's boring. Yes, it's very necessary. And the last, defense 3.5. I suggest that we need to, in order to protect us from Skynet now, from this to happen, we need to lock our MCP servers down a little bit. I mean, it should be open, we should use it, but thinking about how you isolate these becomes critical. And I suggest you dig deeper into what Docker is doing with their MCP toolkit. They are doing a lot of good work. And then you get naturally, if you run it as a container, you can isolate that. So try to keep it small. Try to keep it isolated in the best way you can. So to summarize then, we know now we want our agents, we want them to be secure and brilliant, we don't want them to work against us, right? So how we do this, the three steps summarized. We need to enforce identity. We do this by OAuth and by RBAC. We need to control the supply chain, which we can achieve by a trusted registry. And I also believe we need to program our own laws into this, which we can do by a governance SDK. And then we will all be happy. Right? Thank you.